Hello boxing fans, here at the Queensbury promotion show between Zach Parker and John Ryder. We're here at the press conference. Frank Smith here at enemy territories here. Frank, you've done a few of these away trips, haven't you, recently?
I love a bit of enemy territory, as you call it. No, it's not really enemy territory. We'll get on, really. It's good, though. It's good to be working. It's good to show that we can all work together and make fights that make sense for the sport and make sense mainly for the fighters.
I want to talk about your guy, John Ryder, who I was speaking to him yesterday and said, you know what, certain fighters age well, and he's probably one of them fighters that has aged well. That Callum Smith fight, a lot of people thought he won it. Going forward, he beat Daniel Jacobs. Big win for him. Coming to another tough fight against somebody who's not fought to that level, but he's a good fighter. What do you make of Zach Parker as a fighter?
Great fighter. He's done everything right so far. He's won every fight he needed to. But I don't think he's been in there with someone of the experience of John Ryder. When you look at John Ryder and his career and how long he's been around and the fights he's had, like even looking back to Billy Joe Saunders, what was that, 6 years ago, something like that. And then the Callum Smith fight. Just beat Danny Jacobs recently. So I think his experience is going to be the difference in this fight, honestly. Like I say, I don't think Zach's been there before, whereas I think John's been through the tough fights, and I think like you say, he's got better with age.
Obviously, the carrot that dangles is that WBO title. We know that Canelo's from what we're hearing, is Canelo's actually going to come out in May or not. He's going to wait till September. He's coming off a wrist injury. You'll obviously know better because you guys converse with Canelo quite often. What's the situation with Canelo? Are we going to see him out in May, and is he going to fight the winner of this fight?
I think the plan is, fight in May and then the Bivol rematch in September. That's what he's got in his mind. That's what he said. Eddie obviously speaks often with Canelo and Eddie Reynoso. So I think let's see how things play out on that front. But it's definitely a big opportunity, especially for John Ryder if he can go in there and get the win on Saturday.
It's always been that John Ryder's name has been mentioned. I spoke to John yesterday and he said, "Listen, I can't afford to chase him. I've just got to do my thing, and if that falls into my path, I'll take it." But is John Ryder that tune of that Canelo possibly is looking for?
I think he's one of the names that makes sense. There's a lot of names out there that can make sense, but John Ryder's definitely a fight that we've spoken about in the past before. I think we have to see how things go on Saturday and then go from there. Obviously Canelo's going to make his decision of who he wants to fight, but he's definitely up there in the names that could potentially get that fight.
Just want to quickly move away and talk about a few other things before I let you go. Lee Wood versus Leo Santa Cruz seems to be ordered again by the WBA. What's the situation in regards to that? For the people that are wondering what's going to happen, what's the next process in regards to that?
We've got a short time frame now with the WBA. I think it's something like early December. We need to let it play out, and obviously in the past we looked at we made the Maurizio Lara fight for Lee Wood. I do think there's also still a chance to make another fight for Lee Wood. I still think there's a chance the Santa Cruz fight won't happen, but let's see over the next few weeks. We're in dialogue with his team, BBC, so let's see how that plays out.
What's your last relationship like with BBC? I know maybe Eddie's relationship's not great, but what's Matchroom's relationship like with BBC?
No, look, Eddie's got a great relationship with Louis de Cubas, who's been with the BBC from the start. Speak very often. Made a number of fights with him in the past. So I think there's constant dialogue there. Maybe not with Al Heyman, but with people within the team who are influential and make decisions for the fighters.
We want to talk about the announcement that came out yesterday for Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora in regards to the pay-per-view price, £26.95. Eddie was asked questions on it yesterday. Is this a new norm? Is this what we're going to be seeing going forward, or is this something that we can see for this fight?
I mean, look, it was expensive for that fight, but it's one of those things, probably what was needed in order to make that fight financially viable. And that's why that is priced the way it is. That's all it would come down to, is making the fight possible. And that the numbers have to add up, I'm sure, and stack up in order to make those fights.
But how hard is it to make a pay-per-view fight nowadays? We know people are struggling cost of living is absolutely crazy right now in the UK. And for people to go into their pocket for £24.95 or £26.95, it's going to be difficult unless that fight is really, really good. How hard is it going to be to get people to pay for a pay-per-view fight?
I think it's important that it's only for the biggest fights. The biggest fights out there is where they should be pay-per-view. But certain fights can't be made without that. So it's a case-by-case basis.
Eddie saying 200,000 to 300,000 is what he's saying in regards to the pay-per-view buys. What do you think is going to happen with this one?
I sort of said earlier, I did an interview earlier, probably 300,000 for that fight. So that's my guess.
We spoke about Bivol earlier, actually. Bivol, I was reading something about, he spoke to the boxing scene and he said, look, I want that Bertibiev fight. And he was asked about Bertibiev and he goes, I want that fight, but it's not as easy as that. I know Artur Bertibiev is going to be fighting Anthony Yarde, providing he wins. Everyone's going to call for that Bivol fight, even though Canelo's there. What will it take for us to see an undisputed fight between them two guys in the future?
Look, I think Bivol's in a driving seat in a lot of ways now. What he's done over the last year, the performances he's put in and where he's put himself, the position he's put himself in, has sort of taken him to another level now. He's going to make a decision that's best for him and right for him. The Canelo fight is the commercially biggest fight, obviously, but the Beterbiev fight is about legacy and becoming undisputed, and that's something he's always said he wants. So we'll be led by Dimitri Bivol. Obviously, if we're looking at September for the Canelo fight, then Bivol's going to have a fight in between. So let's see how things play out, like I say, we'll be led by Dimitri Bivol. They're two huge fights right there, but he wants the biggest fights, he wants the toughest tests, he always has done.
And another one from myself, Deontay Wilder is a name that's been bandied about. Eddie said when he went to Abu Dhabi that he invited Shelley Finkel and that team around to talk about Anthony Joshua, a potential fight in 2023 with Anthony Joshua. What happened in regards to that?
I don't know, to be honest. I think he said they didn't. Well, they obviously didn't come. Okay. So,
has there been any dialogue though, by email, by phone, recently?
I think there was some emails going back and forwards, but obviously that's something for down the road. Obviously got AJ's return. There's some talk about whether it's the Dillian and Jermaine Franklin winner or if it's someone else. But I definitely think that we'll see the Wilder happening possibly towards the end of next year.
Final two from myself. Conor Ben, what's the latest in regards to that? Do we know? We're still waiting for a B sample. What's the latest in regards to that?
Still ongoing. I would love to be able to speak about it in more detail rather than say the same thing every couple of weeks, but ultimately his legal case is more important, and clearing his name in that sense is more important than maybe coming out at this point. He wants to talk. As soon as he can talk, he will, but that's all ongoing as we speak.
Just a final one, I need your boxing head for this one. A fight that's been announced for next year, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, a big fight in that division. Talk to me about that. How does that one play out? Great
fight. It's good to see two parties working together again to deliver the biggest fights. So excited for that one. I don't know. I haven't really thought about who wins that, but a massive fight, 100%. I'm going to go Ryan Garcia. Actually, one more. Chris Eubank Jr, Liam Smith. Yeah, it's as far as I'm aware, it's almost there. Not done yet, but let's see. Who wins that one? Chris Eubank Jr. Of course you say that. Frank Smith, thank you very much for talking to Pro Boxing fans. I know you've got to shoot, so thank you so much. And speak to you very soon. Top man.